All right, section 2.8, video, part 1. What I want to do first is start out with a note. So take this note down. Here's the note. There are 5 mathematical ways that we can combine 2 functions. And then right up under it, number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number 1 is addition. Number 2, subtraction. Number 3, multiplication. Number 4, division. And number 5, composition. Now, I'm going to show this to you and let you copy it, and then I'll explain it. So, out beside those 5 words, yeah. Okay, pause the video now and copy this. Okay, you should have this copied. Now, let me talk about this. First of all, let me cover this right half up. First, I assumed in these problems that the name of the 2 functions was going to be f and g. It doesn't have to be f and g. I told you we use f and g a lot, but it could be p and q, m and t, r and s. So the names of the functions aren't always f and g, though typically in here that's what we usually use, but it doesn't have to be. All right, so let's suppose I wanted you to add 2 functions together. And you can add 2 functions together, just like you can add 2 numbers together. Here's the way it will be written. F plus g of x. So if you see that, this means add the 2 functions together. If I want you to subtract them, it'll be written this way. If I want you to multiply them, it'll be written this way. If I want you to divide them, it'll be written this way. Now, this will be the way it will be asked. But what I want you to do is, the first thing I want you to do is separate it out. So, if I ask this, the first thing I will want you to write is that. Now, that's easy to see. It's f of x plus g of x. F of x minus g of x. Now, it's not distributive property, but you could sort of look at it like that. F of x times g of x. F of x divided by g of x. And the reason this stipulation is there is, remember, you can't divide by the number 0. It's the only reason that's there. Now, the one we'll talk about, we're not near about ready to do that yet, is the composition one. The symbol that we use, just like this is an addition symbol and this is a subtraction symbol, this is the composition symbol. It's like a little open dot is what it is. And when we read this, we say f composed with g of x. Now, never mind where this comes from. I'm going to come back and talk about this later on. Main thing is just make sure you've got it in your notes. All right. So, here's what I'm about to do on this one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the instructions first. So, write these instructions down. Use the given functions to answer the following questions. Now, here's what I'm about to do, and I've done this with you before on a few of the notes. I'm going to let you copy the whole section of notes. Every problem I'm going to work. So I'm going to let you copy everything down, and then we'll back up and we'll I'll let you back up and just watch me explain where all the steps come from. I think it'll work better if we do it that way. So I will tell you when to pause the video. Make sure that you've got everything in here first. Gotta make sure I didn't blank anything out. Let's see. This is 4. I think that was too long. I'm gonna have to just a second. Yeah. Okay, pause the video now and copy these 5 examples. Okay, you should have those examples. If you've missed any little part, you can fill that in once we get there. All right, so this is the next 2 examples. Let's see. Make sure you can see all of that. Yep. And yep. Okay. Pause the video and copy this. Okay, you should have that. This is where it's getting a little. Hang on, one all the way over to the side there. Give me just a second. I'm not gonna be able to get all of that on there. Give me just a second. That'll help. Just bear with me just a second. I just need to make sure you can get it all copied before I tell you to pause the video. Okay, that should be it right there. Yes, pause the video. Let's see. Right here, there's going to be something right behind this, right over here, that's still cut off. I'll tell you what to do. Just do this. Pause the video right now and copy this. Okay, now over beside that, now pause the video and put that over to the side of that. Okay? Do the same thing here. Pause the video now and copy this. And then over beside that, pause the video now and copy that over to the side. Okay? Pause the video now and copy this. And then over to the side of this problem right here, now write that. Pause the video now. Okay. that no more. I'm done with that. So. Okay, pause the video now. Copy these two examples. All right. Just a second, let me cover this up. Okay. Pause the video now and copy these three. Okay. Now one more page and we'll have all the examples. There's a bunch of examples in this section. Okay. Pause the video now and copy this. Okay, and now I'm going to go back over all of it, so if there's any little bitty number that you missed or anything, you can fill that in as we go over it. All right, everything that I'm going to be doing is going to be related to the three functions that you started out with. So everything that we're going to do, we're going to use these three functions. Everything. Every one of these questions, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way down through W, we're going to use these three functions. Now, these first four are just warm-up problems. So, let me just cover up these right quick. All right, so we're going to do this problem first. All right, we've already done a few like this, but so I'm not going to labor here long. G of 3 means go to the G function, which is right here, and put 3 right there. So it's 5 times 3 minus 2, which is 13, when you do the math there. Okay. H of 4 just simply means come right here and put 4 right there. I get 2 square root of 2 times 4 plus 1. 2 times 4 is 8 plus 1, which is 9. Square root of 9 is 3. Okay, G of y. This was the question. See, this is the question right there. So how do we find G of y? You go to G right here and put a y right there. So it's 5y minus 2. Now this next one. F of 2r. Now, how do we find f of 2r? You go to the f function, which is this one, and in place of x, put 2r. So put 2r here and put 2r right there. So you got to put it in both of those places. So I'm going to put this 2r here and here. So it's 3 times 2r squared minus 5 times another 2r minus 4. And then orders of operations. 2r squared is 2r times 2r, which is 4r squared. Then multiply it by 3. And then 5 times 2r is 10r. And then minus 4. Now once again, we don't do anything with that. That is the answer. Alright, so those first 4 had nothing to do with these definitions right here. The 5 definitions. Now, everything else we're about to do is going to relate to these 5 definitions. I'm going to do a bunch first with these 4 right here. Alright, so let's do that. So here's the question. question is, find f plus g of x. That's the question. Now, the first thing I want you to do, when it's written this way, is remember, this is the way it'll be written, but I want you to separate it out. So the first thing you should write after the equal sign, put the equal sign, and it'll be f of x plus g of x. So just literally rewrite that. Now, what is f of x? F of x is this. What is g of x? G of x is all of this. So all I'm going to do is replace f of x with what it is, replace g of x with what it is, and put a plus sign in between them. And then add your like terms. 3x squared, negative 5x plus 5x adds out to 0. And negative 4 plus a negative 2 is negative 6. Okay, let's do another one. Here's the question. H plus g of x. That's the question. The first thing I want you to write is put your equal sign and then write h of x plus g of x. That's the first thing I want you to write. Now, what is h of x? You have to go all the way back up to the top again. This is h of x right there. What is g of x? It's right there. So, in h of x's place, put square root of 2x plus 1. Plus, in g of x's place, 5x minus 2. But you can't add any of that together. So that is your answer. Now the next one. F minus g of x. Separate it out. F of x minus g of x. Let that be your first line every single time. Now, what is f of x? You have to look all the way back up at the top. It's this. 3x squared minus 5x minus 4. Minus. What is g of x? Look back up at the top. 5x minus 2. Now, very important comment right here. When you're subtracting these, it is very important that you put that in parentheses. The reason is if you leave the parentheses off, the minus doesn't apply to the whole function. And the minus is supposed to apply to all of g of x. So those parentheses are a must. Now, it doesn't matter when it's a plus between them, but it does when it's a minus. Here's why. Remember, orders of operations, multiplication comes before adding and subtracting. You have to distribute this negative through. When it does, what happens to both of these signs? They change. So if you leave these parentheses off, and students do that commonly, it's going to cause you to miss your answer. So distribute with that negative, so it makes it negative 5x, and negative a negative is plus 2. Then add your like terms together. And once again, once you add those like terms together, there's nothing you can do with it after that. So that's your answer. But we're using these three functions in every one of these problems. Okay? Now let's do this one. H minus f of x. So this is h of x minus f of x. Now, what was h of x? You have to look back up at the top. H of x was this. Minus, what is f of x? All of this. Yes, the parentheses are very important because of the subtraction symbol. Now, I've got to distribute the negative through. So it's going to make that negative, that positive, and that positive. That's the next line. But you can't do anything else with that because you can't add this stuff that's not under a radical with stuff that is under a radical. So that's your answer. All right, f times g of x. Separate it out. This would be f of x times g of x. Now, what is f of x? It's this. Look back up at the top. Times, what is g of x? It's this. Now, how do we multiply this out? You're going to do this one times both of these, this times this one times this one. Then you're going to do this one times this one times this one. Then you're going to do -4 times this one, and -4 times this one. So basically, it's like distributive property 3 times. So when I do that, 3x squared times 5 is 15x cubed. 3x squared times -2 is -6x squared. -5x times 5 is -25x squared. -5x times -2 is plus 10x. Then -4 times 5 is -20x. -4 times -2 is plus 8. Add the like terms. Bring down to 15x cubed. -6x squared minus 25x squared is -31x squared. 10x minus 20x is -10x. And then bring down the plus 8. Now the division. H divided by g of x. This would be h of x divided by g of x. Okay. And then h of x is this, g of x is this, and that doesn't reduce. Now let me mention one other thing and we'll close this video out and I'll pick up in the next video with the next example. One thing you need to be careful about in the dividing ones is this. Sometimes this will reduce. But remember, when you cancel factors. So if you've got a fraction where the top part or the bottom part factors, you need to factor it in the fraction ones. Now, you don't have to try to factor these, but in the fraction ones you do. Here is why. Let's suppose you did one of these, and instead of your answer being this, suppose your answer was this. Suppose this was my answer right here. Well, this factors. This is the easy case. But this has a GCF. Watch what happens if I factor both of these. If you factor this, x squared, x and x, signs are different, largest negative. Two numbers multiply to give you 15, subtract to give you 2, is 5 and 3. This has a GCF of 2. Take out a 2, you're left with x minus 5. Look at what happens here. The x minus 5's cancel. But you would not have known that had you not factored it. So in the dividing ones, if you have polynomials that can be factored, try to do that in the event that something would cancel. Now, I didn't in the one I just worked because that won't factor. But just always watch for the dividing ones to see what would possibly factor and cancel whenever you do that. All right, so that's example J. I will pick up in this next video with this example right here.